Today is November 21st, 2019, and this is your daily Half-Life 3 update. There is no news about Half-Life 3. This was a kind of crazy week, it seemed like, so there's a lot of things to talk about. Today, a lot of stuff to unpack. I'm going to save the big stuff, the stuff that's really worth listening to. I'm going to save that for the end, because I want you to stick through this whole thing. Gotta give you something to look forward to. So, first thing, I guess it's technically the second thing, but whatever. I recently got a big bump in my subscribers. I went from about 9,000 to 11,000. I guess that was in relation to the news that came out, or that leaked, actually. The news came out today. It was leaked a couple days ago about Half-Life Alyx. So whenever I get a bump in subscribers, I usually end up talking about it a little bit. Give my new subscribers some links that I think they should check out. 11,000 is kind of impressive. It's really surreal. I never thought this would actually happen. It's 10,000 subscribers more than I ever thought I would get, and I know 11,000 isn't even that crazy big of a number. There's people with millions of subscribers, so it's cool though. I think it's really interesting. I feel like it's been a long time coming. 745 days, 2 years. Still got a ways to go though. So first, there's gonna be a bunch of links that I want to talk about. I'll try and rattle these off as quickly as possible. First, well, I say first just because I'm talking about it first. I have no idea what order I'm gonna put these links in the description. It's just gonna be random. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. First, there's the Discord page I have. I set up a Discord page for people to talk to. I don't really know what Discord is or how it works, but I got some people on there who seem to know what they're doing, so they've been running it pretty smoothly. It seems I'm on there, talk about stuff. Pretty neat. I think I have a Steam group. I don't do that all that often, but also I don't think anybody's ever actually joined it, so it doesn't really matter. There's a Letterboxd account I have, which I do like. It is pretty neat. I always enjoy making lists and ranking stuff, and keeping track of what movies I watch. So that might be a cool thing to check out if you want to see my opinions on movies, because I don't review every movie I watch, because I watch a lot of movies. Also, there'll be a link to my Twitter, which, you can follow me on Twitter for my, monthly tweet or whatever I do. I don't use Twitter all that often. I don't even really remember why I first started with Twitter. It's probably just to follow, accounts that was giving news about stuff. I also have there's also a subreddit, the Hazard Time subreddit. I think it's just r Hazard Time. You can also check that out. It's not very active. There's really just one guy active on it, which is cool. That's also maybe worth checking out, but mainly the Discord. I also have a Patreon, which again isn't all that active. I do have a couple people who are supporting me on Patreon, and I thank you if you're still doing that. I always mean to try and be more active on Patreon. Right now I only have a $1 tier. It's just kind of a blanket support thing. If you just want to support me in some way, do that. I don't really have a lot of exclusive stuff that I'll be putting out there. I mean, I would like to at some point, but I just can't. I can't really think of anything. And when I do post a video that isn't a daily Half-Life 3 update, you know, a movie review or a podcast or whatever, I do try and post it on Patreon a day early. So that might be something that you want to check out if you think that's worth it. I'll definitely try a little bit more to keep up with that. I'm not always successful in these things that I try and do, besides, you know, the obvious here. What else? Also, something you can check out if you know me, which, you know, some of you don't, but by now you should realize that I'm a very big fan of Lost, and there'll be a link to this event called LostCon. This is the third one. It's a fan convention of Lost that takes place in Hawaii. This is the third one. It's in May of 2020. There was the first one in September of 2014. Then there was another one in October of 2017, and now there's the third one in May of 2020. It's celebrating the 10th anniversary of the finale of Lost. You know, it's a big event in Hawaii. A bunch of Lost fans. There's going to be some actors there for a Q&A. Tours of the island, a bunch of other events, costume contests, charity auctions, stuff like that. It's really cool. I went to the ones in 2014 and 2017. I plan on going to the one in 2020. And so, I mean, if you're a fan of Lost like I am, that's definitely something to check out, because I just like to put that out there, because it's something that needs, you know, as many people go into this as possible to be more and more successful and do more of these things. And I'll be there. It's probably not going to happen, but I would be, you know, more than willing to do some like meetup thing or something if there were actually people who watched the channel who did end up going to that event too. You know, that could be cool. It's probably not going to happen. I don't think there's been a lot of people who have been interested in this. I know it's a lot, you know, flying over to Hawaii and staying there for a weekend. But yeah, next I'm going to have a bunch of other YouTube channels out there that you guys might want to check out. You know, every time I'm blessed with a new influx of subscribers, I feel like I gotta, you know, give it back a little bit. You know, give a little shout out to people who have supported me throughout the years. So I'll start off with the obvious. The person who I kind of see being mostly responsible, or at least somewhat responsible, for the success for whatever success that I've had on this channel. That's channel Austin McConnell. I know some of you might even be sent here from that channel. A couple months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't know, time flies, he gave me a little shout out on his video. It was like 5 YouTubers under 1,000 subscribers worth checking out. That was really my first big bump in subscribers, and I kind of feel like that started the spiral of everything. And there's a lot of really great videos that he does. He's one of the better YouTubers out there, so he's definitely someone I think, you know, check out if you don't. And, you know, thanks again to Austin. Also, check out a channel named Clock Shelves. Well, it might not be I don't know. It's Clock Shelves. There's a website. I'll give it to you. It's a friend of mine who we became friends at the Lost thing. He does like podcast stuff, and I'm on there frequently, or somewhat frequently. You can, you know, listen to me talk about Lost and other stuff on that podcast. You know, he has a bunch of different little shows you can check out. It's pretty neat. Also check out, there's a channel, Man Crew Productions. I think I got that right. Guys over there, fans of the show, has some really neat stuff. The stuff that he does on that channel, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the stuff that I used to do with my friends, except British. So definitely a channel worth checking out. A couple other channels, Miles and Young List. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they'll be in there too. Other people who have been supporting for a while. They're on the, they're admins on the Discord. They got great stuff on their channels too. Let me see if I can think of anything else to throw out there. I think that's it. That's going to be it for links. Unless I think of anything else, which it'll be in there, I just won't have mentioned it. But, okay. Whew. Take a breath. Now on to the big stuff. The important stuff. The stuff that you sat through 11 minutes of nonsense for to get to. So today, we had the official confirmed announcement of the first Half-Life game in, at least a decade. I don't know, 12 years, 13 years. Half-Life Alyx. It's going to be a fully VR game. Supposedly going to be released in March 2020, which we know. And anyone who knows Valve knows to be cautiously optimistic about a release date. Because this was, honestly, when this was still just a rumor, when HLVR was still just a rumor, that's what it was being called, it was rumored for a potential 2019 release date, but, I'm thinking I'm hinging my bets on this most likely coming out in March 2020. It could possibly get delayed a month or two. I don't see anything too crazy. I think at this point Valve has to kind of understand their reputation at this point with Valve Time, and so they're probably, they do seem to have a lot riding on this game, so I think they would want to definitely have it locked down before they announce a release date. And honestly, just thinking about it now, I remember 2015. I remember thinking about 2015 that was like the year of movies. There were so many good movies coming out in 2015. You had Avengers Age of Ultron, Jurassic World, of course Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It just seemed like a lot of really good, exciting movies coming out in 2015. I think Spectre came out in 2015. I'm pretty sure. I think that was November. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was November 15. But I just remember thinking there was 2015 was a really good year for movies. And honestly, looking at it, it seems like 2020 is going to be a really good year for single-player video games. I mean, we got Halo Infinite coming out. We got Half-Life Alyx coming out. You got Last of Us 2. Third Watchmen game. I never played the second Watchmen game, but... No, not Watchmen game. Watch Dogs. The third Watch Dogs game is coming out. I never played the second Watch Dogs game. I did play the first Watch Dogs game. I liked that a lot. Possibly Starfield is coming out. We're still a little iffy on information about that. We don't know too much. I feel like it's going to be a very sudden announcement. So, next month they could announce it for, May of 2020 for all we know. It's going to be a quick... I always kind of like it when video games have a more recent announcement versus obviously with movies, they'll announce a movie 5 years in advance and he's like, oh great, Cyborg's going to come out in 2023. Can't wait. It just seems like, why do I care right now? And so that's always what I like with video games, when it's kind of like, hey, we got a new Fallout game. It's going to be here in a couple months. Go play it. I like that, more sudden announcement. Kind of like what they did with movies, where they did with the 10 Cloverfield Lane, where they announced it a couple months in advance, and the Cloverfield Paradox, where they announced it like an hour before they released it on Netflix, which was just crazy. So, I like it when they do that, and I kind of don't like it with video games when they have such a long wait after announcing it. Like, because I swear, I looked at the list of 2020 video games, and I saw The Last of Us Part 2 on there. I was like, that game hasn't come out yet? I look at it, it was like announced in 2016. What are they doing announcing it in 2016 if it's not going to come out for 4 more years? I swear, I swear, I thought that game was already out. I was like, oh, whatever. But that's kind of completely off topic. I don't know where I left off with Half-Life Alyx. But, so I saw the trailer for Half-Life Alyx, and it looks really cool. There's a couple things that stick out to me that I wanted to talk about. First thing is, my main problem with VR at this point is just as an immersion factor. I mean, obviously VR is supposed to be very immersive. You're looking up, you're looking down and stuff. But I can't get past the fact that you have like floating hands. You don't have wrists or arms. I feel like that could easily be solved with like have like a controller, you put on like a sleeve or something with like a couple mocap dots. I feel like that wouldn't be, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about tech, but it always seems to kind of like take me out of it or anything when I'm seeing gameplay of VR and you got 2 floating hands interacting with stuff. A couple smaller details I picked up on that I thought were interesting. Of course, you had a new voice actor for Eli Vance. I believe he died. The original voice actor died like in 2017 or something. And they have a new voice actor for Alyx. I guess they were looking for somebody who was a little younger. Also, what I immediately picked up on, and I have no idea if I'm right or not, but there's a new character in this game. I believe his name is Russell, from what I saw on just like one unconfirmed website, so who knows if that's true. But I think that character is voiced by Rhys Darby. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I think. It could just be because Rhys Darby is from New Zealand and that character is from New Zealand and I'm racist. I don't know, but it really does sound like him, and I generally do think it is him. So if it is him, it'd be really cool that I picked up on that, and I'd be like one of the first people to, catch that. Which it does kind of seem like him. I mean, I'm not crazy. I've seen stuff with him in it. I've seen stuff with him in. I've seen stuff with him in them. I've seen stuff with... I did end up watching the interview that the people behind this game or whatever, they talked about. Gabe Newell wasn't there. I don't know how much involvement he has. I know Valve works in this weird way where people just kind of do stuff and there's kind of like no guidance. That's kind of like the problem with Valve, but then also like the reason they're so successful, I suppose. I don't know. They talked about this. They talked about, they talked a little bit about the process of this. They were saying how they had, they were working on VR with other games that didn't exactly work. They mentioned they tried Portal, but they said something along the lines of they were worried it would be too disorienting, which I can see that. Portal's a very fast-paced game, a lot of jumping from here to there and here to there. Not sure how that would work with VR. And then eventually they kind of landed on Half-Life. And I do like that. I do like that their original intention is to just make a is to just make a VR game. They didn't step into this saying like, let's make a Half-Life game. They said, let's make a VR game, and a lot of these mechanics, these seem to really work with Half-Life, so we'll make a Half-Life game. I like that. They also of course briefly talked about Half-Life 3, which, by the way, this is not Half-Life 3. They have confirmed that this takes place before the events of Half-Life 2, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. They did talk about Half-Life 3 because that was honestly, when I heard this news, that was my first question: is, okay, why is this not Half-Life 3? They have this fully fledged, single-player VR game. Why did they just not make it Half-Life 3? And their reasoning behind it was just Half-Life 3 is being making Half-Life 3 is a very daunting task to them, which I can understand. It's something that people have been looking forward to for a very long time. So I can understand them maybe wanting to play it a little safer and, venturing into territory that we haven't really seen too much of, we don't have a lot of expectations of, so I can understand that. I did get the sense from what they were saying that, honestly, the future of Half-Life is almost dependent on this game and how well this game is, and, how well this game does. Which that itself is kind of worrying, because I'm not exactly sure how well this game is going to do. I know there's a small percentage of people actually have VR headsets and VR capable computers. So I'm not sure how many people right now have the stuff to get Half-Life Alyx, and how many people are going to now that Half-Life Alyx is announced, how many people are going to go out and get VR stuff. So that remains to be seen. It did honestly surprise me that Half-Life Alyx was this full-fledged single-player game, open world. You can knock stuff around, pick stuff up. I kind of wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, something shorter, something smaller, lower stakes. Kind of more of a foray into VR. This appears like they're jumping in head first. I think if they did something smaller, that might have been a little safer, especially since they decided to do a prequel, because that was a little safer than doing Half-Life 3. But this is more or less the third Half-Life game. Because you could call, obviously there were Episode 1 and Episode 2, Blue Shift, Decay, so there have been several Half-Life games, but from what I can tell, Half-Life Alyx does seem to be the third Half-Life game. There's Half-Life, there's Half-Life 2, and now there's Half-Life Alyx. Those seem to me like the big tentpole games. So that makes me question about Half-Life 3. Because I would always figure Half-Life 3 would be a big tentpole game. That's kind of why I figured that Half-Life Alyx would be the smaller thing, and then that would open the door, and then eventually they would get to Half-Life 3, which would be more like what this is. I really wasn't expecting Half-Life Alyx to be like it is. This also, of course, confirms that Source 2 is done. I haven't followed Source 2 news as much. I know this was maybe rumored, but I think that in itself is interesting once Source 2 opens up to the modding community. Honestly, if I did get a VR headset, I think it would be really cool to play like a modded Source 2 Half-Life 2 in VR. I think that would be incredible. I would really love to do that. I would honestly almost be more excited to do that than I am to play Half-Life Alyx. Just because I love Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 is still to this day my favorite video game I've ever played. Which is why I'm so excited and looking forward to Half-Life 3 so much, because I consider myself more of a Half-Life 2 fan than I consider myself a Half-Life fan. You know, I haven't played Blue Shift or Decay or what was the third one? I don't know. There was a third one, and I've played most of. Well, I haven't played any of Half-Life. I played most of Black Mesa, the remaster or retexture or whatever of Half-Life. I played most of Black Mesa. I've played Portal 1. I've yet to play Portal 2. So I consider myself more of a Half-Life 2 fan than I am a Half-Life fan. So that's kind of why I might not be as excited about Half-Life Alyx as other people might be. Because what I really want is that continuation of this story. Is the continuation of the Half-Life story that was left off with Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Now this allows me to segue into something else I want to talk about. Now, I didn't see this in the interview, but it was said by someone else from somewhere. I tried to gather as much information as possible so I knew everything. Someone said that even though this is a prequel to Half-Life 2, they do recommend playing Half-Life 2 Episode 2 before playing this. Now that was very telling to me. And especially after watching the trailer and listening to some of the dialogue a couple times. Because the first thing I noticed is you can very clearly hear a line that was repeated from the end of Half-Life 2, where Eli Vance says something along the lines of, tells Alyx not to look or close your eyes right before he gets killed. Spoiler alert. And then you have another line before that of Vortigaunt talking about how Alyx Vance can't change this fate or something like that. And then at the end of the Half-Life Alyx trailer, obviously the G-Man shows up. So I do think this is going to be very heavily connected with some of the stuff that goes on in Half-Life 2 Episode 2. It's particularly the Episode 2 revelation that the G-Man has this connection with Alyx. He rescued her from Black Mesa. So this very well could. This most likely will connect to Episode 2 and Half-Life 2 in a lot of ways. I don't. I'm fully expecting that. I think there will be some foreshadowing of what will happen to Eli Vance at the end of Episode 2. We're gonna hopefully get a little bit more information on the G-Man and what he's doing, his goals, his motives. We know like nothing about him. And besides that, also expecting some maybe smaller connections to Half-Life 2. Obviously, we could see Kleiner show up, Barney. It would be interesting if they use this to bridge the gap a little bit between Blue Shift and him showing up in City 17. Again, I don't know much about Blue Shift, so I don't know that whole story. But you could have him show up. Just thinking about it now, it would be cool if we had like a prototype dog. He was at this point a little smaller before Alyx started, building him up a little bit. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Easter eggs and little tiny references to appease the hardcore Half-Life fans who are obsessed with this lore. Like Laszlo could be in it. I think that would be pretty funny. I'd like Griggs and Sheckley. I always liked Griggs and Sheckley from Half-Life 2 Episode 2. It would be pretty neat if they came back. I'd like that a lot. And it's mostly going to be a lot of... I expect a lot of connections with the G-Man and the events of Episode 2, which is kind of what they're teasing anyway. So it's almost not that surprising. Obviously, there'll be more stuff about the Combine. You can see like this weird Combine ship or something floating in the air towards the end of the trailer. You see the Citadel kind of being built, which I at first thought that it wasn't built. It was just kind of like already assembled and like dropped in place. I mean, maybe that's wrong because that does sound kind of ridiculous. But that's kind of what I was under the assumption of. But anyway, it's obviously we're going to see the Citadel. This is going to take place in City 17, at least most of it. Just like talking about it, I keep thinking of more and more things. Ravenholm, of course, is a possibility because she knows about Ravenholm. She knows what happened to Ravenholm. This would be a great format to explore Ravenholm and exactly what went down there. Father Grigori cameo. But yeah, the more and more I talk about it, the more I'm just like thinking of stuff that they could do. Honestly, what I'm looking forward to most with this, besides the story stuff, which I am looking forward to a lot, I'm just looking forward to the world. The ability to explore City 17 and the Half-Life world. Because if I had to pick any game world to exist in VR, first it would be Half-Life, the Half-Life world, Half-Life Portal universe, and then the second it would be a BioShock. I think a BioShock VR would be great. Just exploring that world, because I know, and whenever I play Half-Life 2, I'll also spend like half my time just like, screwing around. You shoot paint cans at the wall and it puts a little paint splatter on there, like rearranging stuff on desks. So I feel like that's something that's going to be really, that's something that's going to kind of be really fun to do in this. Now, of course, like a lot of people hesitant about the VR in general. I just don't really know what it's going to be like. It's something that I've never really done before, and just thinking about it, it kind of makes me feel old, because I fully accept and realize that like this is the future of video games right here. They asked the question, will this be in 2D on a computer screen with a mouse and keyboard? And so like, they're not going to do this just because you would lose so much. I mean, obviously, I fully expect someone to mod it so that this is playable on 2D, and I might even check that out at some point. I might end up checking that out first, because I don't know if I'll have VR capable computer or even a VR headset. I mean, that's an expenditure I'm not planning for at this moment. So yeah, I mean, VR really just seems like the future of video games, and this does seem kind of like the beginning of that. And it's very fitting that it's Valve who's really making the first AAA title VR video game, at least first that I can think of. I can't recall any fully fledged VR game being as big a deal as Half-Life Alyx. It hasn't even come out yet. It's just been announced. I mean, we really just have to wait and see. We really just have to wait and see how this does and how it works. How other people will handle the Source 2 engine, modders and whatnot, and other games that might come out now in VR with their own engines or whatever. I don't know how video game making works. But yeah, I'm just in general hesitant about VR. And I'll admit a part of it too is I have never claimed to be good at video games. I'm not good at video games. Whenever I play a video game, I play it on the easiest possible setting, and it's mostly just a way. Video games are mostly just a way for me to experience a story. So like I don't do multiplayer because whenever I get on multiplayer, I usually suck at it. I think like the only multiplayer I'm actually good at is racing games somehow. Somehow I'm good at racing games. Yeah, I mean, who cares? I weirdly found that out by accident playing racing. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm actually good at this. I can win at this. So I do like Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs has a racing multiplayer that I can jump in and win a couple races. You know, so that's cool. But yeah, I'm not good at video games. So I don't know, like, am I even going to be good at VR? Like, you know, I can't imagine. You know, I just can't imagine like you gotta like reach back behind you to get a clip and like reload your gun into the clip. Like, I don't know, and you gotta like grab stuff. And I mean, is it gonna be weird for me? You know, like picking up a can without actually picking up the can. You know, there's not being any weight or resistance to that can. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I am very excited about this game. Mainly just for the future. Hopefully this game is good. And this game is profitable and does well. Fans like it, makes money. And Valve will want to explore other fully fledged VR games. Still won't be Half-Life 3 for a while. They'll probably venture into other things. I think, and by the way, I don't think this was ever mentioned, but from the rumors, they still do have 2 other VR games in the works. Just thinking about it now, I remember in an update talking about Citadel. I think that was what it was called, Citadel. I don't remember information about it, but there are 2 other VR games in the works at Valve. Maybe possibly one of those is Left 4 Dead 3. I feel like that's been in the works for a while. I would probably say it's Half-Life VR. I mean, not Half-Life VR. I keep calling that Half-Life Alyx. Maybe a Left 4 Dead 3, and then probably a new IP. Which the new IP would also be something that I'd be very, very excited about if that was true. So it would probably be, 4 or 5 more years at least until we see a Half-Life 3. But if anything, this gives me more hope that it will come, because if nothing, it's a Half-Life game. Valve is not ignoring Half-Life. Making this game is, even in the slightest way, acknowledging these games, this franchise, this fan base, the people who have been, looking forward to not even just Half-Life 3, but just a new Half-Life game in general. And so I guess that comes to my my last point here, which mostly what I'm feeling is just, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. I don't want to just say excitement again, but I'm very glad that this is coming out. I'm happy for this community of fans who've been looking forward to a Half-Life game for a while. Even if this is not Half-Life 3, I know there's a lot of people out there who are looking forward to another entry in the Half-Life franchise. I'm happy for them. I'm just happy in general for what this will do for the video game community, because given Valve's track record, this is going to be another groundbreaking video game. Something that's going to change the landscape for the foreseeable future, honestly. Hopefully I guess the only thing we can say is hopefully this will usher in maybe more affordable VR stuff. I feel like companies or whoever that doesn't have VR, maybe this will, I mean, if there's like a company out there who doesn't already have a VR headset that they make, maybe this will give them that push to develop VR headsets and VR technology and want to make it cheaper. Because honestly, whoever has the cheapest VR headset and VR technology is gonna profit from this, because they're the people that the, I guess, casual video game player like me is gonna turn to. Like, I'm gonna look for the cheapest option without compromising, the technology. I still want, the graphics to be good and synced up with my movements or whatever. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah, it's really interesting. There's just a lot of stuff. I know there's just going to be more and more information that comes out. I guess this means I actually have to. I guess this means I have to actually do my job. I have to actually be, actively looking out for this stuff. I know for a while there I was just kind of assuming there was no news. If you're really curious and want the best possible coverage, I would just suggest subscribing to Valve News Network. I mean, you probably already know about that guy, but he's like the more legitimate version of what I do here. Yeah, I think they said December 12th there'll be more information at like the Video Game Awards or something like that. I don't know. So I guess we'll just have to wait for that to get more information. And I suppose more information about the development of this in general will be released about the same time as the actual game is released. So that will give us some more insight, but give us late insight. A little too late for this information. We'd all like to known it a couple of months and years ago. So yeah, I guess that's about it. One more thing that I wanted to do, and if you're sticking through it for this long, usually whenever I get a new influx of subscribers, I also ask for questions. I do a Q&A. So if you have a question you want to ask me, it's probably one that I've already answered before, but I'll answer it again. If you have a question you want to ask me, you can just type in the comment section, and in tomorrow's update, it'll be another long video, and in tomorrow's update, I will answer all the questions in the comment section. Maybe not all of them. All the other times I've answered all of them. If there's just a lot of questions, I might not get to all of them. It usually ends up being like a 20-minute long episode. So, yeah, ask me a question in the comment section, and I will get to it tomorrow. But until then, that has been your daily Half-Life 3 update for November 21st, 2019.